So good afternoon, everybody, dear colleagues. There will certain colleagues be here, I'm sure. Let me welcome you warmly to a panel on a special area of research, namely security research. And I also would like to extend a warm welcome to a very distinguished panel with substantial and long-lasting experience from different perspectives in this area of security research. Our concrete topic in this panel is security research involving users in research to increase the impact. And let me maybe quickly in the beginning set the scene. We want to look at this topic from two angles, also knowing that not everybody from you here present and also present via mainstream is an expert in security research. So the first topic would be what are the specificities of security research? And the second topic would be what is the added value of the direct involvement of our end users, i.e. the security practitioners who are sitting here on the panel. There can be no doubt that security research is one of the instrumental areas to reach our political objective to make Europe a safe and secure place to be. And we all know that the last years have shown that we have to do a lot in order to guarantee the security of our citizens. Security research has this function for three reasons. It enables the development of knowledge and technological innovation, first, to address today's challenges, second, to anticipate tomorrow's threats, and third, to fully exploit the potential of technological developments. What is special about security research? Special is that the security market is purely institutional and driven by demand. It is purely institutional, it's a public market and driven by demand. And this causes the biggest challenge we have in security research, and that is the discontinuity between research efforts and market uptake. And this discontinuity makes it necessary to make the research process part of a wider capability development process. And the end users of security research are, for example, policemen, border guards, first responders. They are the best place to identify needs and set requirements. They know what they want to have in the future. And this enables us then to better address threats such as terrorism and cybercrime, disruption of critical infrastructures, weapons and human trafficking, as well as also natural disasters. Because of all of these challenges, the Commission has already in the Horizon 2020 program the full involvement of the end users in research projects made mandatory, and we will continue to do so under Horizon Europe. We are aware that this obviously adds a layer of complexity for entities submitting proposal, but it has a great added value, as I have pointed out, with regard to the subsequent market uptake. And with this remark, let me turn to our distinguished panel, and let me also introduce myself, because I forgot that in the very beginning. My name is Matthias Oehl. I'm director in DG Home and DG Migration and Home Affairs, inter alia responsible for security research. And let me now welcome our panel. I first welcome Mrs. Cheryl Baker from the University College of Dublin and the Centre for Cybersecurity and Cybercrime Investigation. Cheryl will be able to tell us the benefit of having end users involved directly as beneficiaries in research projects and share her experience as a project coordinator. So this is the perspective of the project coordinator. Second is Patrick Padding from the Netherlands. He is H2020 project coordinator for the project I lead. And Patrick will share his opinion on the involvement of end users from the perspective of practitioners. Third, I welcome Ms. Malte Bojero Egido from Spain. Malte is a Spanish delegate and well known to the H2020 program committee, and she's working in Spain for the Center for Industrial Technological Development. welcome to you as well. And last but not least, Alberto De Benedictis, who is the chair of the Protection and Security Advisory Group. And Alberto has a vast experience from the perspective of industry, also from many boards in industry companies. And he can tell us about the added value of end users' involvement from the industry perspective. So you see, security research is very much integrating the end users from the very beginning. And this panel here reflects a very well overview of the end users, and you will hear about the different perspectives from the end users. I would now like to invite each of the panelists to a short 5 minutes statement. We would like to make this event as interactive as possible. So you will have the opportunity to take the floor. We will not use Slido because the room is so small. So just raise your hands, please, and then we can give you the floor. I start with Maite. Maite, Spain is way ahead in the development of a capability-based approach. And what is the advantage of involving the ministry in all the cycles of research, from the definition of requirements to the management of the projects and the final procurements? You have the floor, Maite.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Matthias. Good afternoon, and thanks to the Commission for inviting me to this panel. My experience in security research is quite long now. In fact, I'm the delegate in the security research for 11 years now. So I have seen all the evolution of the program since 2008 when I joined this role, and I have seen how the program has evolved into a more integration of the end users in the value chain, which from my perspective has had a very positive points. I will explain some of them, and also some areas of improvement. And I think it would be good to try to solve these problems, which are more focused on capability development, as you mentioned already, for the next Horizon Europe program. At the beginning, the program in FP7 was very much an industrial program. The end users were a little bit left aside, and I remember the first experiences of end users being involved really actively in the program in 2010, 2011. Some positive things that have happened since then, so 8 years now, is that, for example, the program has allowed them to understand better and to know more how to explain, how to express their users' needs. At the beginning, it was not so easy. I think, well, maybe Patrick will add more on that, but what I have been exchanging with the Spanish end users is that at first they didn't know how to really explain in a blank paper how to explain their needs in the different areas of security. Secondly, the program has helped them to test, validate, and demonstrate technologies that maybe were unknown for them or really did not know if it would fit with their needs and their current procedures. So it was very good, not only at R&D level, but also at operational level. So it has been very positive for them. Also, another positive aspect was to access innovation and technological solutions, including fields which maybe would never have been thought in security research. For example, exchanging experiences with research groups from academia and industry in fields like materials, chemistry, ICT, fields which normally would not be linked to security, but in fact can make a lot of progress in this sense. However, and there's a list of howevers there, we see some possible improvements in the program. We must remind that this is a research and innovation program, so we need to leave some place for research in any case, and to test innovative solutions even if trying to cover end users' needs. We need also to leave some place for research and to develop emerging technologies, develop new spin-off and startup companies, or universities and SMEs that can yes, provide knowledge in the field, of course. We also would like, well, what I have seen, I've seen it as a positive thing to introduce the eligibility conditions, including end users directly as partners in the projects. I think this has been very positive, but on the other side, I would introduce some kind of flexibility in these eligibility conditions to give a place to good ideas that even if not supported by a lot of end users, they can be good in the security landscape, okay? In any case, at national level, we have seen more and more interest from the end users. In fact, there is now a community of users at the Spanish level, which is very active, and with 13 working groups working on different areas of security, not only in trying to find out their users' needs, but also to interact with the industry and academia to make this matching between the demand and the supply side. And this is very interesting. It's true that, well, it has been recently launched, like only 2 years now, but it is giving good results for the moment. So we have to see how it will evolve. I will stop now. Maybe in the second round, I will explain more details on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maite. That was the perspective of a member state, and I think I'm not flattering you by saying that Spain is certainly among the member states who give an example in the integration of end users into the entire programming process. Let me now turn to Alberto and to the industry perspective. I already may have mentioned, Alberto, that you have a vast experience in these areas, and the question to you is the involvement of end users useful for the industry to be established upfront if there is a business case? Alberto.
Right. Thank you, Matthias. Thank you for inviting me. I'll just maybe take a step back for a moment, because I think there's an important premise to the role of industry, and that's the positioning of research versus the market. I mean, research, what attracts researchers is innovation, is making something different, is being revolutionary, if you will, in terms of the outputs that they're seeking. But the market is not revolutionary. The market at best is evolutionary. The market improves in very small steps. And it's at that crossroad between what research aspires to and what the market actually wants sits industry. Whether small or large enterprises, they have to kind of find the right middle ground. And most industries will not fund basic research. Most industries apply research, but they apply research to what the market demand is. And this is true in every sector, it's not just security. Unfortunately, in security, it is further complicated because the market is a unique market, as Matthias has indicated. It's a market that's typically institutional. So it's a market made by quote-unquote government buyers. And it's a market, in particular, the security market, that is very imperfect. It's highly fragmented. It's not transparent, but not transparent in the bad way. It's not transparent because we're dealing with security matters. And unfortunately, in the area of security, there's a big political element. I mean, in any country, if security has a lapse, everybody takes it on the government. But if security is successful, nobody's aware of it. And so from an institutional perspective, the market is complicated to manage, it's complicated to create, it's complicated to address if you're industry. So in this kind of market, you're typically going to have a lot of insiders. So industries that are used to dealing with that kind of market. That's why you have a lot of defense companies in the security sector, because obviously they deal with institutional customers. They're used to that kind of market. The difference between security and defense from a market perspective, obviously, is that in defense, you've got one customer, Ministry of Defense, and you've got a very structured environment. You have an environment in which basically programs are set for the longer term, research is identified early on, and it has a long-term plan. It's funded. And there are international programs to which countries and companies participate. None of this exists in security. And that is a big issue, to be able to take the output of research, which is now growing quite significantly in Europe, I think largely thanks to the effort at the EU level. If you think that today the EU represents about 50% of all the research that is going into security, that makes a huge difference in the potential market that could emerge from that. That's why the discussion today and the discussions around the future of the funding program are going to be very important. So, yes, participation by end users, absolutely important, absolutely key. I mean, in defense, you wouldn't have a research program if you didn't have end users participating. The problem is, beyond the end users, is how that involvement is managed. How much more can we plan into the future to enable research in security to be actually innovative? Because at the moment, the demand from institutional buyers is, give me something I can use today. You're not going to get a good response from research with that kind of question. So the issue is going to be, how do we make sure that the money we spend in research can be spent into new innovative ideas, but then have the best opportunity to be actually transformed into capability, and from capability into effect? And that's really the question.
Thanks very much, Alberto, in particular for adding content to my introductory remark that the security market is very specific and special. I only quote, it's evolutionary, not revolutionary. It's non-transparent, it's very scattered, and the EU has a very high share of the security market with more than 50% of the overall investment. Let me turn now to the research area and to Cheryl. You are a researcher, and maybe you can describe to us what for you is the added value of involving end users into security research. Cheryl, please.
Thank you very much, Matthias, and thank you for the Commission for inviting me to attend this panel. I did wonder at first why I was invited to attend this panel, because I'm sure there are lots of other coordinators much more experienced than me in H2020 research. But I think the reason is that I've taken a slightly different, perhaps not quite so interesting route into H2020 research, but I think it's relevant to the conversation today. And so my journey began over 10 years ago now, when we set up the Centre for Cybersecurity and Cybercrime Investigation in University College Dublin. And we set up the centre with a mission to support law enforcement in the fight against cybercrime. But beyond that, we had no plan or no grand strategy as to how we were going to achieve that. But our guiding principle was that we wanted to include law enforcement in that process. And that was, I think, in the very beginning, a fairly pragmatic decision, because we had limited resources and we didn't want to waste those resources. So we needed assistance and we needed guidance. So that's how the relationship started, if you like. And in the early years, it was mostly around capacity building. It wasn't really research, a bit of research. I mean, you need to know what you're going to do if you're going to develop training courses, but it was more around capacity building. We were involved with national and international agencies and delivering training around the world to law enforcement agencies. And then we moved into tools, and we decided, okay, we'll start developing software to integrate into the training. And so we started developing forensic tools and online investigation tools for law enforcement. And all that time we were leveraging ISF and ISEC funding to do that. And all that time we were involving practitioners in that process. And the practitioners were involved in coming up with the project ideas, preparing the proposals, being subject matter experts in the proposals, developing software, developing training materials. So they were fully embedded in that whole process. And I think embedding them in the process meant that they became more aware of EU funds and how those EU funds could be used to support, the challenges that they found in their everyday activities, and perhaps, this is a good idea and there's money here, so let's aim a bit higher. So came back to us and said, well, okay, we've got the tools. Now, it would be great if we had the tools and that we could share all the outputs from the tools into a platform. And maybe if that platform could take outputs from other tools and perhaps outputs from commercial tools, and perhaps if it was a European platform, that would be even better. And we said, okay, hang on, we need more money to do this, and we need more research to do this, and we need a longer-term funding. So that's how we came to H2020. But we came with our practitioners into H2020. So they came with us on that journey. And last week we kicked off a €7 million project. 30% of the budget is going to the practitioners. We have practitioners leading work packages. We have them using the budget to fund staff in that project. They're going to be developing software. They're going to be guiding the project all steps of the way. So I suppose what I have here is the experience of a really positive experience of having practitioners into research activities, perhaps not strictly research at the beginning, but we're into research now, and seeing how if you encourage and support them, they can provide so much more to a project. And we know that we're developing something that will have actual tangible use for them. So that's my experience, and perhaps you can add some more to that later on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cheryl, for this very honest and vivid description of the development, also of your journey, as you called it. I would say you see that there's a lot of learning by doing. I also, and we will certainly in the second round come to this point as well, you described a bit the cooperation with the EU in the financial area, which is sometimes an adventure, I would say, but I'm on the other side, so I will not comment on that. Let me turn finally now. We have the member states view, we had the industry view, we had the researchers view, and now we come to the real end user, to the practitioner. Patrick, you manage a network of beneficiaries in the law enforcement domain for a concrete project. What is the added value of involving end users in research, and what are the challenges that you see in this respect? And maybe you can also say a few words about the project you are managing. Patrick.
Yeah. Thank you, and also thank you for this invitation. What can I tell? I can only tell my own story. I'm a cop, so I was educated as a cop, and now I'm here. So that is something like a big difference. But let me tell you about what we do in ILEAD, Innovation Law Enforcement Agencies Dialogue, which is a Horizon 2020 project. But also it builds upon a network that is already existing since 2012. It's called NLETS, the European Network for Law Enforcement Technology Services. At that time, it was recognized that law enforcement should discuss technology and the uptake of innovation due to the fact that it has a huge impact on our daily work. And if you compare this with the military industry, the defense sector will deliver us sensors and a lot of equipment, but that's a different approach, a different scenario than doing your mission with 8 soldiers whilst the cop is walking on a beach with only his smartphone. So technology is really important for us, and it's changing our daily work tremendously. So what we did at the early stage is that quite simple. We started with discussing best practices. And best practices are important because it's a knowledge-based approach, although we are calling it differently. Best practices are also involving not only technology, but also legality, skills, training and education. And if you look quite closely to this, also for research perspectives, why is the best practice a best practices? Because it works. So you could also already study why it works and avoid any mistakes in the future. A second step we took in NLETS is by speaking about co-creation. And it was also a bit naive because we thought, let's work together with the industry. But industry is also very fragmented, has a lot of stakes. They would like to sell. And then at that time, it was quite difficult for us because we were too fragile to have that continuous debate and dialogue with industry. And currently, co-creation is working together with other Horizon projects, taking in results, providing input, ending up with autonomous flying drones over Europe, for example, just to test case this. And then thirdly, research. So best practice, short-term, co-creation, mid-term you could say, and long-term approach is Horizon 2020. And there I am leading a network in law enforcement in Horizon 2020. So what we do in iLead is, especially it was proposed to have that continuous dialogue with the industry and academia. So within 5 workshops yearly, we're defining our needs. And then it also gets scary because needs and requirements, it's a long list of requirements we have. And currently we're picking out a few of them and bringing them into a storytelling approach to tell the story what we need and searching for potential technologies which can help us. It could be for a crime scene. There's a person murdered and we would like to establish the right time of death. What can we do with innovative technology to make this better, to have that better time in place? So a lot of things are being discussed in iLead as requirements, but also mapping technology which are useful for us. At the end, it comes up to describing why this technology could be helpful, in which kind of context, in which kind of purpose, but also helping other law enforcement to showcase this is what we can do. So don't even think always about that short term, because a cop has been educated to listen to his radio. Somebody is calling, you need to go out now. That's still my habit, also in security research. We just had a discussion about how to bring things forward. But slowly on, you see that law enforcement is more engaged, more stepping into security research, and is recognizing the added value. And the added value lies in to get connected, to learn from academia what's present, what can we use, what can we take in. And of course, that was mentioned already on the national level, procurement is always an issue. But also we're currently investigating in which kind of innovative procurement we can use to take up results from projects. And already I see outcomes of Horizon 2020 being used within law enforcement as the next solution. So my journey was from starting on the beat, walking in uniform, ending up here, recognizing the added value of security research, and I hope a lot of other practitioners in time will be able to reach out to communities like this to learn what there is out there, because it's about access to knowledge, and what we can offer is access to our knowledge, the daily work, how things are being done on the beat.
Thanks very much, Patrick, for this overview, not only from the perspective of a practitioner, but also from a cop, which was very, very interesting. You referred to best practices, you referred to co-creation, and you referred to successes you see with regard to the market uptake when it comes to projects. And this is, as I said, one of the biggest challenges we have. Unless there is not somebody now saying, I would like to take the floor immediately and ask a question, I would enter into a second round and ask one question to each panelist before you get the floor. But if somebody is here who cannot hold it anymore, I'm happy to give the floor immediately. That's not the case. I guess there is somebody. I have a flashlight here. Yeah, please. If you could introduce yourself, name and where you are coming from.
We represent the Urania and Heliospace and Defense Group, European and Mediterranean group, about security and defense. So we are trying to change the culture, because the culture is American. We are not marketing, especially the security issues. They have a market, but it's not a marketplace, the security. It's something like health for the citizen. And I think, don't you think that the citizens, we cannot use the name users. They are citizens. And we are on the service of the citizens for securing them. This is the European culture. It's not a Far Eastern one or an American one. It's good that we take these options, but we have to make our own. So don't you think also that the security is by default in research? We have the ancient term of the British investigator. Research is in the blood of the security. Thank you very much.
Who would like to answer from the panel? From the Commission side, I can tell you that for us, there is no differentiation between end users and citizens. Of course, citizens are included here, and citizens who would like to participate are very welcome to participate. Yes, Patrick.
Yeah, I was wondering if I was catching the question correctly, but doing your service on the beat, you know, it's about community policing, and police is there to secure society in this. So security research in this stage also means that we need research to communicate with civilians and citizens to get access to their needs. And I would like to mention one thing, and that's really a business change within police, social media. You know, we all will discuss social media, but by default, we are having quite a lot of problems to get social media into our systems. So to know that actionable awareness. So yes, we're scanning the internet, we're using Twitter, etc. We're setting up platforms that communities can contact police so we know what goes on. But also the way that civilians are reporting to us, it's not anymore by going to the police station, it's by the internet. And so already this area is changing dramatically, speech to text, all the kinds of issues we are having there, to have that actionable intelligence about what goes on in society. So that part only needs severe research to encounter the societal potential problems that there are.
Yes, please, in the second row.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Captain from Guardia Civil from Spain. I represent all the end users in Spain. I currently working in the Ministry of Interior as a responsible of European projects and research, development and innovation. So I can change the perspective of the panel because for us it's important the solution. We participate in any research projects, Horizon 2020 projects, other kind of European programs, because we need technical solutions. And we spend operational mediums during 3, 5, 2 years in order to get a new technical solution. We don't want a solution for now. We were working during 5 years in get a new solutions, but if in 5 years we haven't a new solutions, for us it's not useful to participate in European programs. So to incentivize the participation of end users like law enforcement sciences or other kind of end users, civil protection, emergency services, at national level, for example, in Spain, we, at Ministry of Interior level, we create 2 years ago, more or less, a community of users in order to collaborate with industry and with academia and put in common all our needs. For what? For not duplicate our job and for at the end get real, tangible solutions. For us, we need a mechanism at the end of Horizon 2020 projects which can be capable of continuing the work of this technical solution. Because at the end of a project, after 5 years, 5 or more years, for end users, we haven't anything. Industry have a good solution with the requirements of the end users. Academia researching it during all the project. But for end users? only they participate during the project? Thank you very much.
It was not so much a question but a statement, but I think Alberto and Daryl are best placed to answer.
No, I think this is a very important point. I touched on it at the beginning. I think one of the key issues and possible tensions in Horizon 2020 is that security is slightly different. Security is a bit special. And security funds higher levels of technology closer to market because of the size of the program compared to what else is available in Europe, and also because member states who develop the program effectively want to deploy the solutions that you're saying. But clearly, Horizon 2020 as a program is a research program. So it really is not geared to get to market. Now, there are several mechanisms that have been created to enable that. You have pre-commercial procurement, you have the PPIs, you have some opportunities to get from the research up to, a demonstrator, something like that. So there are mechanisms in place that can get you there. I think the key contributions that users need to make, and why I think it's very important, is not just the technology that they're seeking, but actually to ensure that when the research work is performed, that it takes into account all the other aspects that are key to deploying a capability. And the difference with defense, and I'm sorry to continue to mention it, is because they have a process in place to enable that. So when you deploy a capability with a police force, it has to have certain characteristics beyond technical. It has to be supportable. It has to have certain requirements to meet, whatever legal perspectives or infrastructure, whatever is in place. It has to have, it has to be maintainable. It has to have a certain lifespan. It has to have all these other elements to it. And unless you build those elements into the research program that are variables that people know have to be met by the ultimate output, you might get a research that produces a great technology, but unfortunately is not deployable. So that element, I think, is as important. And from an industrial perspective, that's what industry focuses on. Industry focuses on developing a product that ultimately the market will accept because it is deployable, because it is a capability that produces an effect and services whatever customer it was intended to service. And research often doesn't cover that aspect. In Horizon 2020, we can cover that gap within security research because of how we have positioned the research program for security.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thanks very much. I totally agree with you. Security research is different. And I think the TRL level of security research has to be much higher, that we have to be sure and certain that there are outcomes that are useful and usable to the practitioners. I think some of the initiatives, for example, I lead in Ilianet, where we're trying to gather that information about practitioner requirements as a community and to then produce, some results from that to say, well, this is what we're looking for, that then feeds in. So already you have a channel of information that's coming in to H2020. I think having practitioners involved at the very beginning, during the process, to make sure there's oversight. But I think one of the things that's often forgotten, I think, with practitioners, and the question that they should ask if they're invited into projects, is what is in it for me? What do I get from this? Because quite often that question isn't asked, or if it's asked, the answer doesn't come back clearly enough. So what you want to know when you're going to join a proposal is, what do I get from this? When do I get it? and how do I get it? And if it is a proof of concept, or if it is a demonstrator, then the other mechanisms that are available, like ISF funding, where you can take something into another 12-month or 18-month piece of work to customize and to build something to your national specifications. I think that's where we need to perhaps understand a bit better how all of these funding channels fit together. Because you can take H2020, you can go into ISF, and you can produce something, but you need to be very clear at the beginning. What am I getting out of this at the end? And that's a conversation, I think, that needs to take place at pre-proposal stage, when you're building the proposal, and ask the hard questions, because I think the hard questions sometimes, it's all very polite conversations. Oh, yes, we'll join this project. What do I get from it?
Yes, I wanted to add something to what has been said here. I think we have achieved something which seemed to be very difficult at the beginning of the program, I mean in FP7, which is that there's been a good learning process by end users in order to analyze what their needs are and to collaborate closely with academia, industry, and other kind of stakeholders. Now, there is a missing step I think we should address in the next Horizon Europe that would be very good, which is how to implement those solutions, how to really bring to market those solutions. I'm not saying that all the projects will finalize in commercializable solution, because for sure this is research and innovation. Not all the projects will be successful, but certainly some of them will be. And this will lead into more and better involvement of end users. One of the risks we have for the future, risks or challenges we have for the future, is, of course, how to deal with expectations from the end users. They have spent a lot of hours on analyzing, and Patrick has explained it very well in NLEDs, in ILEAD, ILEANET, and other projects, in analyzing their needs and how to bring research into this landscape and to prepare projects. Now, we need to face other challenges, which is more how to bring to market these solutions, how to commercialize these solutions in, of course, a very specific market, which is a security market. So I think this is one of the things we should deal with. I don't know if it's under the Horizon Europe program or bridging funds between Horizon Europe and maybe ISF or other kind of maybe national funds, procurement funds, or whatsoever. I don't really know which would be the best way, but I think this is something we should address for the future.
Yeah, I would like to add two words, a bit different maybe. One word is Thomas Cook, and the other word is Renault. Thomas Cook, why? It refers to you. They're selling all-inclusive holidays. And I think that's the part you're mentioning. If we would like to make research valuable, it has to be all-inclusive. It has to look about security research in a legal way, technical way, cultural, societal, prevention, and crime fighting. All those aspects should be in. The other part is the Renault, and I think that is also refers to your discussion remarks. We're making the wheels of the car, but we're missing the gearbox. And due to having projects in place, we are still adding one gear. But what we need, and that's also one of the objectives of ILEAD, is a permanent collaboration structure. And if you look upon the funds also, projects will always end. So projects are in a way killing. So for law enforcement, and also if you compare this with the defense industry, what we need is a continuous platform in which law enforcement can be accessed by industry, academia, and by the commission. And being a cop, I would say we need traveling bandits. So we need people that can go around across Europe, shake hands, tell the stories about what we need, what kind of projects we are, just to encounter and to have that dialogue with others. And that needs another approach. That needs another approach in which there will be a continuous support from the member states. Spain is quite advanced. But also a continuous financial support to look upon a period of maybe 10 years. And if you would like to do it very cost effective, at the end it will be less costly than all those European projects. But I think it's about building capacity and ensuring that there will always be a place where you can go to if it goes about end user practitioners, etc. And I don't care who is in it. So it could be Irish, Hungarian, French, you name it, as long as all those other parties will have access to our requirements.
Thank you very much. And a compliment to the colleague in the second row. You can see how one statement can prompt a whole discussion. There are two fingers, first here and second there, please. You have the floor. I mean, the other way around, but don't.
Okay, sorry. Thank you, Mr. My name is Patricia Compard. I'm from French Home Office, and I'm also chair of CEN TC 391, which is social and citizen security, and I'm also in the STAIR for Security project. Thank you very much for all your interventions. I would rather call them users rather than end users, because they're, in my mind, pretty much driving everything. It's a strong partnership we have to build and drive. But what are we doing here? We're trying to help policymakers, whoever they are. They might be the European Union or local governments, or even private companies, but policymakers and users, the people who enforce these policies, the first responders, and so on. So I would pretty much go what Alberto said, which was we have to build capabilities. This is absolutely crucial. It's a whole chain, and we're not thinking this way, not even often at the national level. The issue here is that we are a continent union with 28 countries, and most of the policies are in the hand of the member states. But still, we have to build a market. We have to develop and implement solutions that can work for everyone, that should be implemented and interoperable. So there's a way of doing this, and it was not mentioned here. So this is why I wanted to talk about it. And this way is to use standardization. Standardization, it's not only about sitting down and writing papers, it's about the process, it's about thinking, it's about having all the relevant stakeholders all around and putting their brains together. As Patrick said, writing down, finding out the best practices, the state of the art, identifying gaps that research may be able to fill in, or industry, or already available solutions that would have been developed by the European Union. So this is something absolutely crucial, and it is being developed at many levels. Of course, European interests are Europe, but not only Europe, because the market is global. So, and we're also very powerful in the ISO institutions, because we are 50 countries, and it's one country, one vote, so we're very active. So there are already some standards that are structuring the market very strongly, and it's just a beginning, because the world is open, and so we have to rely on something we know. In some way, we have to have aligned processes that work for everyone, that would describe exactly the capabilities we have to develop, the state of the art, the good practices, sometimes requirements. They might be societal, they might be managerial, but they can also be very technical. Sometimes a very specific technical standard on quality can make a whole difference, or a good certification scheme that has been very well thought of makes a great difference. I cannot see how we can improve the border security without having everybody out together looking at these issues with relevant stakeholders and the practitioners' networks, for instance, that have been developed by the European Union. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I also take the point you made on the users and end users. I think you have a point there. We collect a few questions now. Please.
I think I have to talk like this. Okay.
Suits you well.
Yeah, thank you. Giuseppe D'Aquino from the European Defence Agency. Since you talk a lot about defence, I thought it's nice to say something from my side. I appreciate very much what Alberto was saying, because defense and security are kind of linked, but there are peculiarities on both sides. Now, what I actually thought is you are talking about capability and you're talking about research, which are two different dimensions, as you well know. So the thing in defense, at least, I can say only what I know from my side, you need a long-term capability development plan. And that's more a question for maybe for the Commission. Are you thinking on a capability development plan and security? Because you first need, at least I say again, from the defense point of view, you first need this. And once you define your strategy on 20 years, then you start to deploy what actually is the research necessary to get there, to get to the capability. If you don't have a capability development plan, well, you have a scattered situation where you have complicated situation where it's difficult to find out a line. But that's exactly from my point of view. I'm not saying security should be the same, but that's a question. Are you visualizing such a CDP? Are you visualizing such a possibility that research needs to make the foundation for arriving there?
Thank you. Further questions? Yes, they're in the last row, left corner.
Thank you very much. My name is Olga Radchuk, and I'm from Austrian Standards International, which is a national body, national standardization body of Austria. And we are, just a remark or a statement from my side. We are involved now in a project that is called For Mobile, from mobile phone to from mobile devices to the court. And I've heard a lot of opinions on the existing, let's say, the existing standardization landscape. It reminds on a puzzle where there are a lot of pieces that are supposed to be used by LEAs, law enforcement agencies, and how to deal with this diversity and how to make it more unified or more friendly to use for the end users, which are LEAs in this case. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have to come to an end, but I think we can call this an interactive debate because a lot of you have had the opportunity to ask questions. I would now say the following. We will make a final round. I would be grateful if the panelists could refer to the 3 statements and questions which were posed. And I would also ask you in the very end of your statement to tell us what is your main message after this panel debate to the audience. In other words, what should we take home with us? Maybe I start with Alberto.
Standards. I agree entirely with you. It would be much better for the industry to have standards. The problem, as you know, is that setting standards is a very complicated task. It is complicated at the national level, and when you take it to the EU level, it becomes almost impossible. I'm not saying it can't be done. It takes a very long time. If you look at airport screeners, it took, 8-10 years to get to a common standard. And that's just one product in the security that received that. There aren't practically any others that have a standard. And it was kind of forced on us because the US had obviously a much easier marketplace for them. Homeland Security is a standard. And it's easier for them to make those decisions. So the problem for us is, how do we enable a process to develop standards that is much more effective and efficient than what we have today? Today, it doesn't really work well. Not with the kind of timelines that we have in the security sector. But I agree, it is a very high priority. On capability development, yes. My view is security should have or should develop its own capability plan. I mean, it's clear, because a capability plan starts from a threat assessment, a common threat assessment, an understood threat assessment. It outlines what the threat looks like over a timeline, whether it's 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And against that timeline, it decides, this is what I've got today. This is the gap. This is what I need to get. It's very straightforward as a process. The problem is, it's easy to a certain extent when you have an institutionalized process like you have in defense, where you have Ministry of Defense that are used to doing it. You have the EDA, which is a common agencies that use to bring this process together. But we don't have anything like that in security. So my contention would be, yes, it is something that we should strive to achieve. We may have to get there in steps. We may have to get there through a process that at the beginning doesn't necessarily include everyone, because otherwise you're never going to get there. But you can start the process. And I would go shorter term than longer term at the beginning to see how that process develops. But yes, I think it is the way to go.
Thank you, Alberto. Maite, please.
Yes. I will also focus on more in this capability development process. I don't have anything to add about the standards. I think Alberto addressed it very well. In the capability development, I wanted to also reinforce this message that the security sector has some, not only peculiarities, but also some differences with regards to defense. First of all, in security, we see it as a whole, but in fact, there are different areas of security. Some of them can have plans at mid and long term, whilst others need solutions at very, very short term. Let's think about cybersecurity, for example. There are new threats that are appearing every day, so we cannot make planning at 5-10 years time because it would not have any sense. So it's true that we should make sure that we can have different plannings, capability plannings for different areas of security. It's not so easy. So of course this is something that has to be done also with the end users, but I would claim also, just now that we are in the co-design part of the Horizon Europe program, I would claim for some line of, I don't know if investment or whatever, or funding that can address short-term needs in order to try to anticipate and develop some tools at shorter term. Very often we have to cope with research cycles of 5 to 6 years. This is unaffordable for certain areas of security and for certain end users, and not in all security, but in certain areas. So this is something we have to keep in mind. Thank you.
Patrick, please.
Standards. It keeps me awake. Why? Standards and interoperability for me is partly the same. If I'm crossing the border to Belgium or to Germany or to any other member states, I can't communicate. But we're chasing a terrorist. A bit odd, isn't it? So we're not able to cross, to invest across the borders. It's also quite difficult because I do see that the industry has a lot of own, you could say, vendor lock-in sometimes. But I think it's something we need, especially if we can have the capability in place. And then this bridge to the capability deployment. Yes, we're working on something like roadmaps, but the roadmap for me is also technology push and technology pull, and altogether it will define your future or current capabilities. And it's then already said, but I think that we should start in defining that approach in within 5 years, and then extend it to a longer period, but also taking into account the current incapabilities, such as forthcoming 5G, artificial intelligence, etc., etc. And those are the main areas where we can, let's say, work on better interoperability, better standards, etc., because they are knocking on our door. So at that current stage, we need action now to work on this, to prepare ourselves for the future. And it's not necessary to come up with a plan for 10 years. Yeah, my main remarks, what I would like to tell the audience out of this meeting, where we're building the wheels, where you do have a car, but we need that permanent gearbox in between, being that permanent collaboration structure between law enforcement to make sure that we'll have access to knowledge of our partners and that our partners can access us.
I like the gearbox approach. That's a very good metaphor. Cheryl, please.
Thanks very much. It's always horrible going last, isn't it? Because everybody's always said everything, and I have to think of something different to say. But I mean, when it comes to standards, I think there is some standards that are already being. There's the cybersecurity certification that's happening at EU level. So I mean, we're looking at a standard for cybersecurity products. So I think there is some work already ongoing there. Trying to standardise things across Europe is challenging, particularly in the cyber domain. There are ethical challenges, there are GDPR challenges. So there are all sorts of things that I don't think I want to comment on at the moment. But in terms of just perhaps going back as well to the topic, which is involving users in research to increase impact and as regards capability, well, I think that the community knows best what the community needs. And that's why you need to involve the community. Because if you're looking at capability, they can tell you, where the capability requirements are. So I think that's all I have to say on the matter. Everybody else has said everything else, I think, and has it covered. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cheryl. I can tell you one thing. I enjoyed it very much that the Commission was in the moderating position today and could ask questions herself. There's a lot of comment on, but colleagues here have taken notes also, and we will evaluate that also when back. Just want to say one word, because you really asked me concretely about the capability development plan. And I would fully share what panelists have said here, in particular Alberto and Maite. The defense market and the security market are very different, very different. We have a very scattered market, you have a very harmonious market. That's why it is very difficult in our area to have a one-size-fits-all approach. And that's why I would say we go for a capability-driven approach, but not for a capability-driven plan. And the step-by-step approach you have mentioned, Alberto, I think is a step into the right direction. That brings us to the end of the panel. I hope that we have demonstrated to you the peculiarities of the security research domain, and that we also have demonstrated to you that security research cannot stand alone. We as Commission are planning to further structure, to further systematize, to further improve the involvement of end users into the entire security research process. I can also tell you that in the new mandates of the European Border and Coast Guard Agency, Frontex, as well as in the EULISA mandate, we have articles which allow these agencies to be better integrated into our work, to make better use of their expertise on the ground. If you think of all the border guards who are working with and working for the Frontex agency only, but also Europol will be part of that. We are currently setting this up. So I hope this panel has demonstrated the challenges we are having, in particular the market update. I hope that I could tell you in the end that the Commission is really trying to further go down the road towards the end users. And with this, I wish you a good end of this forum, and I hope that you enjoyed the discussion. Thank you very much.